Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to entrepreneurship session number 17. Today we are going to start with a different approach. So, what do you see in your front of your screens? Who you are, then it is written target audience, their problems, and then you come up with an idea. It's a simple framework. So, what do you mean by who you are? Who you are means what do you love? What are your passions? Like in the Three Idiots movie, this movie tells you about fun and passion, but it misses to tells you that how you find your passion. And then next comes for whom you have to work or develop an idea. So that is your target audience and their problems. You work for them, and then we come up with an idea. Okay, so that's it. That's a very simple framework. So should a student will should go with a problem or with his or her passion? That's an question. So it's always a dilemma that students should always follow their passion or should actually follow their passion, like Zakir Hussain, Sachin Tendulkar, or Shahrukh Khan. They are passionate about their field of work. Or students should roam around like Oyo Rooms. He roamed around streets. He talked to the customers. He talked to the people, understood their problem, right? And then once he understood, Ritesh Agrawal, once he understood the problems and understood what was the problem, he came up with the idea of Oyo Rooms. Okay, Ritesh Agrawal is the founder of Oyo Rooms. Okay, so today we will go to mind map. So this is the mind map. So entire entrepreneurship process complete, we will complete in the mind map in half an hour. Okay, so let's explore it further. So over here, as you can see, there are two parts. First is how to identify opportunities or problems. And the second is who you are and core activities, the occupation. So let us first explore the how to identify the opportunities. So these are the various points. Let me just focus on that. So read books. This is the older techniques, right? This is required, obviously. Okay. So read books. You will find opportunity by reading books. Read newspapers. You will find opportunity. Observe your own problems. Observe around. Talk to the customers, their problems, their frustrations. Talk to the retailers, wholesalers, and manufacturers. You will identify opportunity. Talk to the consultants, investors, mentors, expert. Attend trade shows. If you attend a trade show, you will find an opportunity, identify an opportunity. Then social media, reviews, and blogs. From there, you will find an opportunity. Ask a question. So these are all old traditional method of finding the or identifying the opportunities. Obviously, this is required. This is the market analysis or market research. This is mandatory part. But how do we connect the dots? Okay. So we'll move further. Then who you are, your core activities. So in business modeling, we learn about core activities. For example, I'm sure most of you must be knowing what is BMC. That is business model canvas. Okay. So core activity means what would you actually be doing in your startup? That is what you mean by core activities. Now you can have this as your passion also. Correct? So students need to know who they are and what are their passions. For example, if you're starting a restaurant business, your core activities will be finding the best chef, finding the location, right location at the right time, hiring more people, or making your taste consistent. Okay. So if you're starting an IT company these days, at least students should know what is programming, what is algorithm, what is C++, what is Python. So these are the basic core activities if you're starting an IT companies these days. But if you don't love cooking, and you are going to start a restaurant, your business will not go that much high, however good opportunity it may be. So that means if you don't love being passionate, if you don't love what you do, don't proceed with it. Okay. For the first case we have over here is agriculture and food. Do you love farming? Okay, people talk about I will do this agri-tech app, I will develop some solution, I'll develop a robot, which will guide the farmers and cultivate their crops much better. But do you love farming? You go into the farm for 1 hour and you will come out of it running away. It's a very hot, and my hands are getting dirty, my feet are getting dirty. So if you don't love being around farms, don't talk about farming. It's not the job for you. So there are opportunities in everything. Even the waste has, there is an opportunity in the waste also, right? So opportunities have been evolving. If there is a no opportunity, people create one. There is no problem in that. Question is, do you love what you do? Do you love your passion? Are you interested in, I will explore over it now, the first point. So first point in agriculture and food is farming. We have talked about it. So are you involved in trading, or do you love processing or retail? So you see, skills are different for each one of them. Fine. So your passions and skills should match. Next is fashion and clothing. So are you into designing actually, or do you love stitching clothes? So what do you love? Based on that, you should decide. Next is your construction, architects and interior designing. Do you love decorating your home? Right? So you're into interior design. So find your passion and explore it further. Then manufacturing. There are two things in manufacturing. First is the consumer products. Okay. Are you more interested into consumer products, or do you love industrial products? Okay. So that means consumer product means, do you love working in a factory? So these are the various sectors in your consumer products. Gems and jewelry, FMCG, I will come back to it. Then toys, gifts and stationery, furniture and bedding. We will again come back to what is bedding. Tech and electronics and healthcare and pharma. Okay, pharma means selling of medicines and pharmaceutical stores. So what is this FMCG? So let us ask Google. Okay, FMCG. So it stands for fast moving consumer goods. Okay, also stands for your consumer packed goods, right? They are the product that are sold quickly and are relatively low cost. Okay, so why not ask the Google? Google is the lot of source of information. Just I type this word, you can see there are 8 million hits in half a second. Fine. Now the better source to give this information is, there is a website called as IBEF, which stands for Indian Brand Equity Foundation. The founder was Ministry of Commerce and Industries in India, right? Uh, the type of the business is semi-government. As you can see very clearly, the government trust IBEF is the largest resource center providing accurate information on Indian economy, business opportunities, investment ideas and industries. So if you want to know what are businesses there in India, and what are the growing business opportunities in India, right? You have to go to this website. You have to do that. So let us click into it. So as you can see directly, the business opportunities, investment ideas, industry research report, everything will come up. Okay. So if you go over here, you will get all the industries which we have talked about, right? Right from agriculture, then aviation, banking, edutech, e-commerce, whatnot. Then here it is, FMCG, right? Then IT, then media and entertainment, everything you talk about it, renewable energy, real estate, all the details. And then export also. India export these things. India exports agriculture and food, apparel, carpets, cashews, chemicals, coffee. You should know about all these things. Tea, textile, synthetic, sports, spices, power loom. All these things, leather, handloom, handicrafts, gems and jewelry. It's a very good market. And then there are some case studies also, very good case studies. You all can go through it. So let us concentrate on industries and FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. Okay, so as you can see clearly, FMCG is the fourth largest sector in the Indian economy. It's a growing demand. So packed food market is in India is going to be expected to be double, that is US $70 billion by 2025. Okay, attractive opportunities. So you have increase in the disposable income in rural India, and low penetration in the level in the rural market offers a room for growth. So there are policy support, there are competitive edge, right? As you can see, there is a lot of information. There's a market size given over here, investments, what are the, who are the key players, and what is the road ahead. So you can just click on this Indian FMGC industry in India industry report. So I've already downloaded it, so I will show it to you. So this is the report which we are talking about. So FMCG is the fast moving consumer goods, okay, which has dominated the market nowadays. So this is the table of contents, a lot of summary, so y'all can read it through. I'm just glancing through it. So this is the executive summary. Okay, the favorable demographics in India and the rising income level will boost the FMCG market, as you can see over here very, very clearly. Okay, and the rise in the rural consumption, rural areas will drive the FMCG market. Okay, it contributes to around 36% of the overall FMCG spending. Fine, and it is the fourth largest sector in Indian economy, and it is expected to grow at 5 to 6% in 2020. Fine. So this is the consumption rate and some facts. Fine. Let me go to the next part, and here it is advantage India given. Okay, and the growing demands and the higher investments, policy support, and attractive opportunities. So y'all can read about it in more details. Then we have a market overview. We have a current market and a forecast market prediction, right? And then these are the three main segments of FMCG. Food and beverages, it accounts for 19% of the sector. Okay, this sector includes health and beverages, then cereals, bakery products, snacks, chocolates, ice creams, tea, coffee, soft drinks, processed fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and branded flours. Okay, and healthcare, it accounts for 31% of the sector. Okay, and then we have household and personal care. It accounts for 50% of the sector. It includes oral care, health care, skin care, cosmetic, deodorants, perfumes, hygiene, paper products, fabric wash, and household cleaners. So this is the market segment for your FMCG products. Then let us jump forward. Okay, and what are the companies which are the big key players in this what are the top 10 FMCG companies in India? You must have heard of Hindustan Unilever Limited, ITC Limited, Nestle India Limited, Britannia Industries Limited, Godrej Consumer Products Limited. Patanjali has come up now, Patanjali Ayurved Limited, Dabur India, which is the older one. So, you have a lot of companies which are coming up or which are already there. So here it is the urban and rural industry breakup. So you have 55% urban and 45% rural breakup for the accounting. Okay, and this slide shows you the increasing demand. Okay, in 2017 it was 19 billion, and it has grown to around 200 billion online users. We have a big sector, big chunk of online FMCG market now. We have a lot of penetration and depth. And then these are the strategies adopted. They are promotions and offers, right? Then we have a research online, purchase online. Then we have new product launches. We have this new companies which are launching new products. For example, in June 2020, Amul has launched ginger and tulsi milk variant to boost immunity. Okay, so then expansion in March 2020, Hindustan Unilever Limited signed an agreement with Glenmark Pharmaceuticals Limited to acquire intimate the hygiene brand Vivos. Okay, so these are the various strategies: expansion, new product launches. Fine, let us move ahead. You can grow, you can more and more read it and get an idea to it, right? Then we have this product expansion. On August 2020, Jubilant Food Works Limited, which operates Domino's Pizzas, right, outlet in India, announced its entry into FMCG, fast moving consumer goods segment, with a range to ready to cook sausages, gravies, and pastries. Okay, so you can read about it. It's a very good. Then the investments and only online sales launch. Okay, people have moved into it. Only online sales launch also. So growth drivers, these are the growth drivers: shift to organized market, easy access, rural consumptions, and increase in the penetration. Okay, all these factors lead to the growth of this FMCG, sector. Then we have popularity and policy and regulatory framework. The government is also having the union budget, which provides a lot of boost to this sector. Then we have GST, goods and service tax, which has unified a lot of taxes. Then we have food security bill, which will reduce the prices of food grain for below poverty households, allowing them to spend resources on other goods and services, including your FMCG products. Okay, you have a lot of then you have a FDI in organized retail, then you have setu scheme. Okay, relaxation in license rules. So all these are promoting. Then you have a GST, as you can see. Then this is your boost in FDI inflows and investments. And these are the target names and the acquired names. You have your merger or your acquisition and the year it is given. Fine. So there are a lot of opportunities. You have a rural market, innovative products, premium products. Okay. Then we have sourcing base, penetration, online FMCG. Now this is the current trend. It is estimated that 40% of all FMCG purchases in India will go online by 2020, and it has gone that, thereby making it a 5 to 6 billion business opportunities. So if you're interested in FMCG, you all can go through it, right? So these are some key industry organizations. So enough about FMCG now. Let us proceed further. So you can read about it. It's not only on FMCG. You can read about a lot of industries. This is just one of them we have talked about. Gems and jewelry, healthcare, infrastructure, insurance. You can have a lots and lots. So this is a very rich resource of website which you can get a lot of information, or you can even get a lot of case studies. Let me just show it to you once. So you can have a latest case studies. The growing of Zomato, the top of the food chain, right? Then you have a Byju's, which is having a lot of advertisements. Even in the Indian cricket team, we have a logo on their t-shirt. So this is the Byju is investing a lot of money into marketing and branding. Then we have an Indian Toy Story case study. So do read Future of EduTech in India, India Digital Health Mission, and digital adaptation by Indian SMBS. Okay, fine. Small, medium scale businesses. Okay, so you can have a look at it. And then we have industrial products. Are you interested in industrial products? Biotech, medical devices, industrial equipments. We have textile, chemical, steel, cement, you name it, automobile and components. Does your passion lies over here in industrial products or in the consumer products? Now what is bedding? Just let's ask Google itself. So let me open another this thing, another tab, and let's search for Google. Okay, let's ask Google what is bedding. I hope many of you might be knowing it, but still, bedding. Let's type. Okay, so let us understand this. What is the bedding meaning? So what do you see? Mattresses, right? So bedding, also known as bedcloth or white linen, is the material laid about the mattresses of a bed for hygiene, warm protection of the mattresses and decorative purposes. So you see bed sheets, blankets. So you see over here pepperfry.com, it is involved in selling or selling this bedding sets. Okay, so you can have a look at it. Mentra, IKEA, you might be knowing IKEA. It's a very famous brand. So they are writing explore our bedding range to create a cozy space for a peaceful night's sleep. See their marketing line and see their where they are. These are the big players. They pay to the Google for their website to come in the top of their search. So Pepperfry, then we have Myntra, IKEA, right? Shopper Stop, Amazon. Amazon is also there. Fine. So this is what do you mean by bedding, right? So there is a sector over here. There's a big sector in this field also. There is opportunity in everything, you see, right? And then we have mining, transportation and logistics. There are a lot of scope over here. Aviation, healthcare. Are you interested in healthcare? Right? Or you have a lot of, you don't have to be a doctor now. I mean, only doctors nowadays, that is physician. You can have work on psychological, that is mental health. This has become a big, sector now also. It's becoming bigger because nowadays a lot of people being in the online mode has this mental health issues has popped up. There's a lot of opportunity in this. Then IT and technology. Are you a coder? Does your passion mean coding? Do you love coding, or do you love doing R&D? Then we have education and training. So if you love to talk to people, or if you love to speak, you can have one of the passions. You can be trainer, coach, or teachers. Okay, or you can even become that. Is your love, do you love teaching or talking or teaching your friends, right? So it all depends upon who are you. Then we have marketing and sales and services. Do you love talking to people, right? Then you can be a sales expert. Or do you love to marketing? You're a marketing expert, you can become a communication expert. Then we have MLM, multi-level marketing. Let's just type this and see what comes up. Okay, MLM, multi-level marketing, is a strategy some direct sales companies use to encourage existing distributors to recruit new distributors who are paid a percentage of their recruit sale. Okay, so that is what do you mean by multi-level marketing. So you don't do marketing on your own, you hire other distributors who will do the marketing for you. So that is what is called as multi-level marketing. Fine. And are you interested in management? Do you want to lead the teams? Or do you have this good networking skills? Right? You have a strong network, or you maintain good relationships with your clients. So you can be interested in this. And then we have arts. These are like dedicated professional fields. Actor, musician, photographers, chefs or cooks, poets, writers or craftsmen. These are very, very rare and dedicated fields. Not everyone can become have into arts. Then we have hospitality and tourism. You have F&B, food and clothing. Okay, food and beverages, or we can say, in that also we have two categories. Cooking, do you love cooking, or do you serve, or do you love serving? Right? We have hotel management courses in MBA, which only teaches you how to be a good hotel management of the crookeries or the placement of the table and everything. So you have a big sector over here, tourism. Okay, then also will come health, beauty and fitness. We have are you a health freak, right? Do you regularly exercise, or do you love exercising? Do you want to be a coach or a supplier? Supplier means supplier of your or nutrition drinks, and there are a lot of foods and beverages which will boost your immunity. Then MLM, here also we have MLM. And sports and gaming. So all these comes under your who you are. What are your core activities? So if you love any of these, you should go for it. Okay, you should find your passion. So if your passion matches your skill, there is nothing like it. Okay, let me close this now. So what does the next category comes up? The next category is, let me show it to you, the target audience. Now once you identify who you are, what do you really like, what is your passion, then you find out who will be your audience, for whom you will be building your service or your product. Are you solving their problems, right? And then you come up with an idea. Fine. So here we have target audience. In target audience, we have for whom we will be developing a solution, or for whom we will be making the products and creating a startup. Fine. So you have two categories over here: B2B, business to business, and or directly we can say business to consumers. So let's ask in Google also, what is B2B? B2B. So B2B marketing, as you can see very clearly, business to business service. Okay. So it is a situation where one business makes a commercial transaction with the other. Now, let me just show it to you over here. So for example, providing raw material to other company that will produce the output. Okay. So this is a simple example of a business to business transaction. Okay. Or it is a business conducted between one business and the another, such as a wholesaler and a retailer. Okay. It happens, these transactions tend to happen in a supply chain where one company will purchase your raw material from another to be used in the manufacturing process. So are you into B2B? Okay. Now let us go into the mind map again. So B2B, what do you have in B2B? So B2B, you have a lot of industries. So what are they? These industries are your target audience. Are you making an app? So let's say earlier we have talked about, finding a passion. So here you have, IT or a coder. So do you love developing an app, mobile app, which can be an app for which target audience? Healthcare, whether it's an app for education or a construction or a IT, arts and craft. Fine. F&B, to these are the industries. These are your target audience, B2B, business to business. And then the criteria, it all depends upon, which business, what is the company size, what are the revenues, and what is the state of business. It all depends upon the criteria also, industry and the criteria before choosing a target audience. Then B2C, directly business to consumer. Let us see that B2C. Let us ask Google, what is that? Yeah. So B2C refers to the process of selling the products and your services directly between a business and the consumers who are the end users of its products or your service. Okay. So mostly companies that sell directly to the consumer can be referred to as B2C companies. So this is very, very, easy definition and easier to understand. Those who don't know it might be for the first time, but it's very easy, right? So in this, we have demographic. Okay. Demographic means age, gender, education, employment, marital status, whether married or unmarried, it depends, race and religion, right? Then we have psychographic, values, beliefs, interest, lifestyle, attitude, personality. While choosing your target audience, it all depends upon that, right? Then we have behavioral, whether that age group has, or whether that age group or a section have your purchasing power or spending habits. You have to have investigate these things. Then what's your status in the society, whether you belong to the middle class or a higher upper class, your product will depend upon that, who will be buying. So these are the factors. Then your geographic, whether it is situated in the village or a town or a city, everything matters. So if you are a student and thinking for a startup, you should research and everything, do a extensive research on this, on your, whether you want have to go for B2B or B2C, directly selling your product. So if your customers are, you have to, narrow it down. You cannot have just every age group. Let's say if you're making a toy, your startup is making a toy, educational toy, right? So age group will be very, very small. Like for example, let's say 5 to 15 years. Gender, it is for, male or female. Then education, it's for school kids, definitely not married. Race and religion, values, belief, then everything will be coming up. Where are you selling your product? So villages, towns, city, so that also matters a lot. Okay. In the next, after you have your target audience, then you have to do a, detailed market research, maybe using design technique. So let us see what is this. So we have problem identification. So these are the various techniques you can identify the problem. Observation, you observe around. Let's say you're traveling in a bus, you observe. Normally it's very, very easy to sleep. सोने के लिए थोड़ी आए हो दुनिया में. You have to observe around, right? Observe what people do, what people like, what are their habits. Then there is a pestle analysis. There is a video I will show you right after. Interviews. Interview your customers or your potential customers. Now you will have your assignment very soon, wherein you have to talk to your 10 at least customers. So talk to people. Talk to people. No, you cannot create a product just because you liked it. You have to create a product or a service which people like. People will pay you for it, right? Then interviews. You set up interviews with your customers or your potential consumers. Empathy map, this we will come up a little later. Customer map, we have already, we will be discussing it. Then we have why analysis. Why people like this? Why not this? So we have why analysis. And then we have a problem statement. 5 missing problem statement. We will be discussing that very soon. Now let's go to this pestle analysis. Let me show you a video. Okay, let me show you a video.
So the question I most commonly get is, how do you stop certain people from dominating meetings? We all know this person. This is the person who comes to the meeting. This is the most important one. So most valuable resource, which is time. And it kind of leads to what I call the doom loop, because the people who are not quite as dominant don't speak because they've given up, and then the overly dominant people take over, and it just becomes this self-perpetuating cycle. This is also known as the uneven communication effect. And what that means is that a minority of people do a majority of the talking. In the research, we found that in a typical 6-person group, 2 people do over 60% of the talking. As the group gets bigger, this effect gets more and more magnified. It can be really frustrating for the rest of the people who come to the meeting ready to make a contribution, but there's just no way to kind of get an angle or even get the floor. What's an example of what doesn't work? Talking to that person, asking them to behave, asking them to control themselves. Typically, they don't work because the person who dominates the meeting lacks self-awareness. They're not aware that they're dominating. They also lack self-control. They just can't help themselves. They just are spilling over with ideas. The question is, what strategies can we introduce in meetings so that we can hear everybody's voice? I recently had an experience where a CEO asked me to facilitate an offsite. This was a really important offsite. He was bringing his key sales and marketing team together so that they could brainstorm ways to try to increase their sales. And he wanted at all costs to prevent this overly dominant team member from taking over. We devised a plan that involved a technique called brainwriting. The most important thing is that brainwriting is not brainstorming. Brainstorming is the simultaneous oral generation of ideas. Brainwriting is the simultaneous written generation of ideas. But the whole point is that when you're writing ideas, no one can interrupt you, no one can block your thoughts, then those can be shared later with the other team members. So the first 10 minutes of the offsite worked like this. We asked everybody in the meeting to take as many cards as they wanted, to write down all of their ideas for increasing motor oil sales. And we told them to write as many ideas as possible, setting aside feasibility, setting aside legal issues. Every idea was written on its own card. So if somebody had 10 ideas, they took 10 cards. If somebody had 15 ideas, they'd take 15 cards, and so on. So for 10 minutes, there was complete silence. I had 2 rules which I strongly enforced: no guessing and no confessions. What I mean by that is I didn't let anyone sign their name on a card or identify their idea in any way. Because when we taped the ideas on the wall, everyone got to read the ideas and vote on them. When we posted the ideas on the wall, I didn't want anybody to guess who suggested what idea, because it really should be a meritocracy of ideas. It shouldn't be a popularity contest. So within 10 minutes, we had over 200 ideas generated. Then we had another 10 or 15 minutes where everybody reviewed the ideas on the cards. Then they took some of the Post-it notes and they voted for the ideas that they found the most exciting. The overly dominant people had been neutralized. The normally quiet, shy people had been energized. Everyone hailed this as the most successful offsite that this company has ever had. And it was all because of a little planning, a small amount of materials, and a lot of focus on a process. And now they have the tools to do it again at their next offsite. Brainwriting.
Okay, I guess I have played a video which was based on brainwriting. Now, these are the idea generation techniques. We were coming to that only. We have brainstorming. We know what is brainstorming. Then Scamper. We have already studied Scamper last lecture. Okay, in session number 16, Scamper stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, reverse, rearrange. Already existing technique. You can apply this Scamper tool, and we have learned this. Let me show it to you. So this is what is this camper being applied to Kit Kat. Original idea, substituted it with a chocolate, combined with some nuts, adapted to ice cream, magnified or minified the pack, then put to another use, put it inside the jar, eliminated the two, kept it only single, eliminated the one, and then rearranged in the Tetra Pak. Okay, this is the a classic example of a scamper. And then next was mind map. This is what is mind map means. This is what we are seeing over here in front of your screen is mind map. Okay. Then brain writing is what you saw in the video. Actually, I've named it wrongly as special analysis, but this was really about brain writing. Okay. So next we will go to GTBD. Okay, jobs to be done. Okay, this I will play another video. I'll also keep a video on Pestle at the last.
At its core, Jobs Be Done is a framework to help you understand why and how people buy the products they do. We have found that if you understand the jobs to be done, you greatly increase your chances of connecting your product with the right buyer at the right time. I'll explain what I mean through this really quick story. Meet John. He's a product developer and he's ready to build the next great thing. This isn't his first launch though. He's had a few before, but it didn't go so well. The first time, he relied strictly on personas. His company told him they needed to sell to more women, specifically women within a certain age range and a certain income bracket. He knew exactly what to do. This was a disaster. Simply knowing who you want to sell to doesn't tell you how to develop your product for them or what they need to hear to understand how this product would help them. The second time, he decided to start with his engineering team. They had long, in-depth meetings to discuss all the great ways they could improve the product. It took a lot longer to build it, and it would cost a lot more money, but man, it had some of the most amazing features you would ever want to see. When they took the product to market, again, they were met with disappointment. Some customers took a look at all the new stuff, and they were instantly turned off. For those that did try it, it took them forever to learn how to use it, and most of them quit using it after a while. But John was determined to win. So he finally decided to just ask the customers simply, what would you want to see in our next launch? John's customers were great. They had a ton of ideas for him, and he listened carefully as each customer told them everything they should do. Everything from the new colors they should add into it, to how it should act on social media, to what size it should be. He took the list back to the development team, and they warned John, we can build it, but it's going to be expensive and take a long time to build. But John would hear none of it. The customer had spoken. How could they possibly go wrong? Months and months later, John took the product back to the market, but again, no one bought it. John became depressed. He loved building products, but he felt like he was just chasing his tail. Could anyone tell him how to build this thing? Not long after, John was driving home when his phone rang. It was his wife. She wanted him to grab pizza on the way home. His son's soccer team had won the big game, and boy, were they hungry. She asked him to stop by the pizza shop and grab 5 pizzas quick. On the way, he notices a pizzeria he and his wife went for their anniversary. It was a beautiful place with candlelight and very good pizza. He remembered how nice and quiet that evening was. They sat there for hours. He finally makes it to the pizza shop and they have pizzas ready to go, quick and cheap. He grabs 5 and he's back in his car in a matter of minutes. He gets home and the kids are having a blast, running and yelling. They instantly devour all the pizza he bought. But luckily, he kept a box for his wife and himself. As John thought about the 2 different times he had bought pizza, one with his wife on their anniversary and one for the kids, it became clear to him that he didn't buy the pizza based on any of his demographics. He didn't buy the pizza based on the features and benefits that came with pizza. What he actually did, and actually what we all do, is we hire products because we have a job we need done. And so John recognized that he had 2 jobs to be done. And job number 1, help me feed my kids as fast as possible. It was perfect for the pizza shop. But he could have chosen hot dogs or hamburgers or any other type of fast food. Now for job number 2, help me celebrate a special occasion with my wife. Well, that was perfect for the restaurant. But he could have chosen a romantic movie, or maybe they could have took a nice walk together. But at no point did the pizza shop and the restaurant ever compete for the same job. But how could he use this to help his product? He did some research and found jobsbedone.org. There he learned techniques and frameworks that helped him see things differently. John went back to some of his best customers, and instead of asking what they wanted, he asked what were they doing the last time they bought a product like this. He was shocked to find out that people were using his product to get a lot of jobs done that he had never thought of. Now that John knew the jobs that his customers were trying to get done, he knew what to include in his next launch. And more importantly, he knew what to keep out. He knew what his marketing should say, using his customers' words, not just his own. He also thought of new places and ways to sell his product that were more convenient to not only his current customers, but to other customers that might be trying to get the same job done. It turns out that once John realized the different jobs his customers were hiring his product for, building, marketing, and selling his product successfully was much easier.
Okay, so this was about jobs to be done. Now let's, I think I have misplaced that, this video about Pestle, I guess. There is one more video about brain writing, which I can share it, no problem. I guess just Pestle one, I have not downloaded it. No problem, we will play it in the YouTube. Brain writing.
The best ideas spark when minds meet. But the trouble with a traditional brainstorming session is that not everyone gets an equal chance to speak their mind. Some participants might dominate the discourse, while some may hold back. On the other hand, brain writing encourages equal participation using written rather than verbal idea generation. Select a team of 6, or any other number, who are a mix of people familiar with the issue at hand and outsiders with a fresh perspective. In round 1, each participant takes 5 minutes to write 3 potential ideas on the worksheet provided. For round 2, the worksheets are placed on a table, and other participants can pick them up to add to the list or build on listed ideas by writing in a separate row. The cycle is repeated until every participant has written 3 ideas on each of the 6 worksheets. Thus, by the end of 30 minutes, 6 participants would have generated 3 ideas every 5 minutes, resulting in a repository of 108 ideas. You can discuss, clarify, refine, and combine similar ideas to arrive at the best one for the topic selected. By starting off with quantity, you can thus arrive at a quality innovation that will help you break out of the box.
Okay, so this was a short video on brain writing. Now let us go and search for the Pestle one. Pestle is also important tool. Okay, it stands for your, I will just check whether we have a video on it. Okay, let's go to it. Let's go to YouTube and let us understand what is Pestle analysis and how it is important. It is for problem identification, one of the tools. For idea generation, we have brainstorming, Scamper, mind map, brain writing, writing, and jobs to be done. Let's see if it works.
Pestle analysis is a management framework and diagnostic tool. The outcome of the analysis will help you to understand factors external to your organization, which can impact upon strategy and influence business decisions. Pestle is an acronym for P, political, E, economic, S, social, T, technology, L, legal, and E, environmental. Let's look at each of these factors more closely. Political. When looking at political factors, you will need to take into account your country's government policies and political stability. Other factors will include tax implications, industry regulations, and global trade agreements and restrictions. Economic. These factors will include exchange rates, economic growth or decline, globalization, inflation, interest rates, and the cost of living, labour costs and consumer spending. When looking at social factors, look at trends such as lifestyle choices, cultural norms and expectations such as career attitudes and work-life balance. It also concerns itself with consumer tastes and buying habits as well as population demographics. Technology has grown exponentially. How is your business responding to technological innovation in your products and services? Other technological advancements will impact on data storage, security levels, disruptive technologies such as smartphones, social networking, automation, robotics, and the increasing shift towards AI, artificial intelligence. Shifts in the legal landscape are constantly changing, especially here in the UK. Employment labour law and employment tribunal decisions impact upon working practices continuously. It's also important to keep up to date with all changes in legislation and, of course, health and safety regulations. Environmental. Does your business have a direct impact on the environment? Political sanctions now govern carbon emissions and a move towards sustainable resources, such as wind turbines and recycling. This area also covers CSR, corporate social responsibility, and ethical sourcing of goods and services, which in turn has a direct impact on procurement and your business supply chain management. Once you are clear on the main overarching factors included in a PESTLE analysis, the next challenge is to relate this in real terms to assess the risks specifically within the industry sector you work in.
Okay, this was all about PESTLE analysis. I hope I will share some video links. We have some very good PESTLE analysis for Nike, and we have for Tesla, and for Coca-Cola. For all these things are there. I will share that with you. Okay, now let's get back to the mind map. Okay, so these are all ideas, will be how our ideas can be generated, right? The techniques, and then what benefits, how will you sell those ideas? So that is what is mean by benefits. And then we have this opportunity evaluation. You remember in one of the lectures, I think session number 7, we have discussed these points, listing the top 3 ideas to solve the problem and narrow down based on these metrics. So these are all opportunity evaluators. Okay, points: interest and experience, and need and value, and enough market, competition, profit valuation, right time, right location, resource availability, legalities, and the others. So these are all opportunity evaluations. And then we have finally, when we have these things and have the idea and we are selling it to the customers, we will develop a minimum viable product. Okay, this is what you call it as a prototype, and we do a pilot testing on it, right? And we can give it to early adopters and for testing purpose, and they can suggest the improvements in your MVP. And then we apply, we want to improve on a design, then we apply the business modeling to it to achieve your business planning, your business goals, your desired sales. So there will be a complete session on business modeling, and there will be a complete session on business planning. Okay, so we will have that process. So this is the entire journey of your startup process. First is this. First is let me just show it to you again, revise again. So how to identify opportunities. Next is who are you, your core activities. Then followed by your target audience, find for whom you are doing this. And then the market research, your idea generation, your problem identification, and how will you sell it, right? What are your benefits of your product or your service? Then your opportunity evaluator, you have 10 different evaluators point. Then development of your minimum viable product, then applying the best business model for your startup process and the business planning. Okay, so this is entirely in short the startup process. Fine. Now a modern technique of identifying the opportunity and business opportunities is this 5-step mission statement. Okay, so we can whenever you have an idea, or you should have a realistic goal, and you should be very, very clear about it. For example, I am launching, right, by the year. This should be definite. What is your goal? Helping my target audience with this problem by introducing this idea, which will give them the power. So let me read it. I am launching an edutech startup by the year. You can mention the month also, 2022. Helping my target audience. Which are my target audience? Millions of high school students in the rural area. So be very specific. Where is your geography? Then who have or don't have the problem or access to experts in their vicinity. Correct? What is my idea? A skill based learning platform. So by introducing a skill based learning platform which enables them to get the jobs faster with a higher pay scale. So this is a modern way of doing things. 5-step mission statement for your business opportunity. So this is the way we can write it. This is generalized statement. I am launching. So this will be a passion, your startup. By the year, target month and year. This will give you a definite goal, right? You should have a realistic target month or a year where we can, have these things going. Helping my target audience who have or don't have, this is the problem. By introducing your idea with a unique selling proposition. So you should have your idea which will have benefits to the target audience, which will enable them, which will give them a lot of benefits. So this is what you mean by 5-step mission statement. Okay. And I think we have come to the end of this session, and we have discussed today a lot of startup processes and how to think and what are the different techniques. Identify your main important thing is this. Identify who you are, right? Identify your passion, then identify your skills, whether your skills and your passions are matching. Then you identify your target audience, identify what problems they are facing, and try to come up with an idea in solving those problems. Okay, so that is all for today's session. I will share all the resources with you after this meeting is over. So until then, have a good day and thank you.